Today we are covering Higher Learning, a classic 90s movie but comes with a lot of trigger warnings. The movie begins with a literal jump scare, the American flag. At Columbus University during the 90s, students are going wild for the incoming freshman class. Kristen walks into the elevator to head up to her dorm when Malik slides in at the last second. Kristen clutches her purse as if anyone wanted that fugly empty thing anyway. Malik catches it instantly. Since it's move-in day, everyone's busy making their new dorms feel like home. Meanwhile, Malik wastes no time heading out to the track. He walks in thinking he's cool. The coach takes one look at Malik's superstar attitude and shuts it down immediately. Just like that, Malik is kicked off the team. On his way out, Malik spots Deja training nearby. He slides off his sunglasses for a better look, raising his eyebrows as if Deja is America's next top model. Meanwhile, Monet, shows up to her dorm and is instantly annoyed that Kristen claimed the best side of the room, but since Kristen seems like a sweet girl, Monet lets it go. Later that night, white people are doing white people things. Kristen tags along with her friends to her first big college party. Kristen complains that her father is a brokey now and she can hardly afford the tuition. One of the girls says,
And I'm happy. Well, you know, my roommate's a Mexican, so I bet she got a scholarship. Ugh.
no tacos for this bimbo. The vibe is classic 90s frat party. A guy named Chad bragging that no one can party like his frat does. Kristen smiles and nods as they're being introduced. Across campus, Fudge and Dreads are throwing their own party, just as loud and lively, but smoother and swaggier. Sadly, the fun doesn't last long. Remy, the pale new roommate who just wants peace and quiet, decides enough is enough and calls for security. The cops show up and Fudge isn't having it. He argues, pointing out that if it were white frat boys throwing the same party, no one would be shutting it down. Walking back to her dorm, Kristen runs into Taryn. Taryn asks why she's walking alone, warning her it's not safe at night. She even explains the blue light system, phones stationed around campus so women can call for help if they're being followed. Kristen and Taryn click instantly, and I bet they're going to click the clit. Before they part ways, Taryn hands her a flyer for her freedom group, planting the first seeds of Kristen's big lesbian awakening. Back at the dorms, Malik tries to sleep but gets rudely woken up when his roommate Wayne barges in and starts blasting music. Malik, surprisingly chill, doesn't blow up, but he does call Wayne out on his disgusting living habits. Wayne politely accepts his mistakes and apologizes. Omar Epps is fine. I bet he's still fine today. Oh, never mind. The next day, Fudge gives Monet the lay of the land. Everyone is separated by different races, and we find out Fudge is a super senior.
Is that right, old trout?
Professor Phipps gives his first lesson. He wastes no time kicking out students who haven't paid their tuition. Among those sent packing are Malik and Kristen. The professor tells the two to go seek the financial aid department. Once there, Kristen learns that she has to get a job for the first time, and Malik realizes that his athletic scholarship has been rescinded, so he needs to grovel to his coach. Malik regains his spot on the team, full scholarship included. Meanwhile, Remy's world is starting to collapse. He gets into an altercation with Fudge since he just keeps blasting his music. Remy tries to stand his ground, but the poor guy is built like a skinny twink. In the end, he packs up his things and moves out, which he should be doing in Israel. Later that night, while playing Monopoly, Fudge tells Malik he's nothing more than a slave to the capitalist system. His scholarship, track, and having to keep up his grades are ways to keep him obedient. The words hit harder than the coach's rejection. Malik tries to brush it off, but deep down, he knows Fudge has a point. At a bar, Kristen's friends make fun of Kristen's new hair from afar.
She looks like a tramp.
These friends are fake AF. Remy, now officially solo, struggles even more to find friends. He floats from group to group, but every attempt ends in awkwardness, rejection, or just plain silence. It's painful to watch, and it doesn't help that he looks just as ugly as he looks today. Meanwhile, Kristen's college life also decides to take a darker turn. Billy, the frat guy with more beer than brain cells, tries to force himself on her. Kristen resists, pushes him off, and he gets angry. When both walk out, Billy's friends cheer him on even though his pants are down. Monet comes back to the dorm to find Kristen crying in her bed, completely shaken after what Billy tried earlier. As she comforts her, the phone rings, and since Kristen can't bring herself to answer it, Monet picks it up. It's Billy, and instead of learning from his mistake, the clown doubles down on being a douche and racially insults Monet. Monet doesn't let it slide. She storms off with Kristen to meet Fudge, ready to call in some backup. She tells him exactly what Billy said. So Fudge and the gang rolls up to the frat party where Billy's hanging out by the couch, drunk. Fudge and his boys drag Billy outside, where they give him a good beating, making sure he learns a lesson the hard way. Dreads really wants to break your neck. Chad does what guys like him do best, cry for the police and calls the black students gang members. Since he too doesn't want trouble, Billy tells the police everything is fine, and it was all just a misunderstanding. As they leave, Fudge spots Remy standing awkwardly in the corner, as out of place as ever. He and his buddy Dreads mock him, clowning on him for being too weak, and Remy's resentment grows. Meanwhile, Kristen is still scarred by what happened with Billy. She doesn't want to pretend she's fine, so she turns to the only person she feels safe around, Taryn. She goes to her meetings, listens to the discussions, and starts to find comfort in Taryn's presence. At Fudge's spot, Malik is surprised at Fudge's collection of books. Malik wants to borrow a book on Frederick Douglass, but Fudge scolds him for only wanting to read it for class and not for knowledge. As for Remy, he's more isolated than ever. No friends, no real place to belong, alone. Then out of nowhere, a guy with a butt chin named Scott approaches him to hang out. At first, Remy thinks Scott is gay, but Scott speaks to him, saluting his whiteness. He introduces Remy to a bunch of early balding white men as well, and you already know where this is bald heading. The next day, Professor Phipps lectures his class about politics and gives them an assignment to create their own political ideology that includes their background. He specifically tells Malik that no one is going to treat you well just because of your race. At the quad, Taryn sees Kristen suffering, so she asks Kristen if she'd like to report the crime. But Kristen says they're just going to blame her for being drunk. Meanwhile, Malik isn't too happy with his grades, so he calls Phipps a sellout. Phipps tells him that it is laziness that keeps black people down in America, so Malik needs to work harder. At track, it turns out Malik is the weakest link out of the 4 members, and it sparks a fight amongst them. Malik then gets pissed that his teammate chooses to date a white woman, so he hits on Deja, and their coochies are steaming. Their bond deepens as she helps tutor him during late nights as well. Meanwhile, Remy is going full neo-Nazi as he listens to Scott preach. And honestly, this neo-Nazi act isn't too far from Michael Rappaport's genocidal views. When Kristen turns in her work, Professor Phipps isn't happy with it because she doesn't have an original thought and is only using facts. He pushes her to create something from her personal experiences, so she starts to hand out flyers about Taryn's group. Wayne tries to flirt with her, and she crumbles a little. Then later at night, she calls out Billy, turning her trauma to help other women stand up. Feeling free, she invites Taryn to spend the night, but Taryn declines, saying she needs to be sure before diving into the world of rainbows and scissors. Monet hears their conversation and calls Taryn weird. Kristen defends Taryn and calls her different. Monet says,
Yeah, and I bet she wants to show you just how different she can be, huh?
During class one day, Remy realizes he's surrounded by brown people, so in defiance, he shows his premature balding Oz. He really think he ate with that one. Later that night, the group ends up attacking one of Malik's teammates. The skinheads warn him not to date white girls from now on, and Remy stands in disbelief. Meanwhile, Malik vents to Deja about how the world seems set against him. She lets him rant, but also says she experiences the same thing. Then she slides him some cake. One day, Scott brings home a bag of guns and Remy decides to play with it. He stupidly points it at Scott and he gets angry about it. Sometime later, Kristen finds herself in a weird 90s rom-com situation. On one side, there's Taryn, strong, magnetic, and different in a way that makes Kristen feel alive. On the other hand, Wayne's been kind and funny, giving safe vibes. Torn between rainbows and scissors with Taryn or the comfort of Wayne's D, Kristen's left confused and questioning herself. The next day, Malik has finally gone woke and criticizes the statue of Columbus in the very name of his own school. The fugly white boy decides to confront Malik about his Black Panther shirt and calls him a coon. Deja has to stop Malik from hurting Remy, who is already skirting away. Malik then goes to Remy's dorm to confront him, but Remy is scared. Furious, Remy decides to take it out on his roommate. Luckily, Malik confronts the fugly man, so Remy decides to take out his gun and threatens both of them, calling Malik a slave. When Remy leaves with his things, Malik stupidly tries to chase after him. He runs into security, and instead of trying to help Malik, they arrest him. Fudge tears into the cops for their blatant racism, but the damage is done. Tensions explode between white and black students, splitting the campus down the middle. Malik decides to move out, and Wayne, hurt, insists he's not like the others. Malik acknowledges their friendship, but explains he feels safer with his own people. The next day, Remy has dropped out of school because he feels like Asians will get all the engineering jobs because of affirmative action. Scott tries to motivate him to get re-enrolled because one day their kind will rule the world once again. Malik, Fudge, and his crew decide to interrupt them and the group fight. Malik beats Remy down. Instead of celebrating, Malik ends up fighting with Deja, who hates seeing him like this and worries he's slipping into the same cycle he's trying to escape.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
She was rooting for you. After getting beaten up by Malik, Remy's rage spirals out of control. Scott says black people are ready for war, and none of his followers have the balls to shoot a black person. Desperate to prove himself to Scott, he takes a rifle and vows to finally do something. Meanwhile, Kristen has been setting up a peaceful festival to bring everyone together. At the fest, Remy climbs a rooftop and opens fire. Malik sees Remy with a gun, so he grabs Deja to get her to safety, but she's struck by a bullet and collapses in his arms. It's chaos as everyone runs for their life. Professor Phipps urges him to take her to the hospital, but grief freezes him until rage finally takes over. Eventually, Deja is unresponsive. Malik charges after Remy and catches him and beats him to a pulp. But instead of stopping the actual shooter, the cops tackle Malik again and make sure Remy isn't hurt. Remy runs, only to be treated gently when the police finally confront him. Realizing there's no undoing what he's done, he apologizes and takes his own life. Malik stumbles out of the building, devastated, only to be met by Professor Phipps, who embraces him in silence. Meanwhile, Scott and his gang watch the news. His minions cheer, "White power," while Scott smirks because he knows this is the start of bigger attacks. In the days after, Phipps tells Malik to rise above the pain and do better. Malik later meets Kristen at the monument where Deja died. Kristen blames herself because she organized everything, but Malik comforts her before they part ways, scarred but standing. The film closes on graduation day, smiling students, proud families, and the heavy weight of lessons learned too soon. I'm saddened that this movie is still relevant today, even after 30 years. John Singleton knows how to tell a story, and this one had my blood pressure going all over the place. What did you guys think of this one?
Hey, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe now and turn on the notification because YouTube isn't recommending my videos. And if you'd like to watch more foolishness, click here or here.